I'm going to take you a little to a political topic because, for example, in your field, I imagine that politics also plays a great price in how standards are managed and job opportunities are also managed. In these years that you have been there, how have you seen that political leaders have influenced growth opportunities in your field?
Well, let's look first at investment in health because and I'm going to put it this way. Many times they are generated hospitals, and one can say, no, this president made 10 hospitals, but not only the hospital, you have to build it, you have to implement it, but you have to have a budget so that this hospital, this clinic, or this health center has the right staff first. You have to have the budget for that. If it is free medicine, have the medicines, and for that you have to manage. Also, so that the national industry is dynamized, that the vast majority of medicines are from local manufacturers to help your industry was not opened. And many times those who win the bids are those who do not even have a laboratory here. Otherwise, someone like me told you, you and I agree. A laboratory, and we sell here and we don't have a laboratory. Many times the tenders are won by this type of company that does not even have knowledge of what products I am going to have or I am going to require, or and they do not put a factory here. So national labs are often seen fighting and winning. Someone who represents a laboratory that they don't do it here, they do it elsewhere for granted, and it's the fight for granted. So the local industry doesn't have a regular source of sales. The national laboratory should also be protected or given a preference, and that everyone has participation. Then it is not only for manufacturing and have many hospitals, otherwise you must have the money to be able to manage every one of these. That is why sometimes you see the hospital as it is and you see the news that tells you yes, but there is no medicine, there is no adequate personnel, or there is not the number of professionals, and then that university education itself has to become a little more dynamic according to the requirements of the moment and not continue educating professionals like how they educated me, for example. It has to be more dynamic, more in line with this time. And there are faculties and universities where professors, I have friends of mine who are at the university teaching the professor almost the same thing that the professor taught him 20 years ago. Then they don't demand you. It is that you prepare according to the subject. Otherwise, they often take the same notebooks the teachers who gave them 20 years ago. So we must also control and regulate that the professionals who leave are prepared for the moment of now.
Of course, they must be updated, but also that they are genuine in teaching because they are accurate. In order to be a good mentor or teacher, you have to have your own convictions, right? And those convictions are part of how you educate because you form criteria.
Correct. So if politics or these rulers don't see this, and as I tell you, educate the population. Campaigns that they cannot take antibiotics or that they cannot self-medicate, this causes your condition to worsen. For example, I don't take painkillers every day. Yes, but you don't attack the LA, the root of the pain. Why does it hurt?
Why do you think that the government has not regulated, for example, antibiotics, which is something that many countries do?
What happens is that I see it as that there is no predisposition to do so because we all already know how bad things are going to be for us in about 20, 30 years. These are measurements. Why? Because governments think in the short term, they think in 4 years, how I am going to be re-elected in 4 years. I have to appoint my successor. They don't think, they think about the moment and not about the future. And these are all things that are going to happen in the future. Could it be that a distant future, if we become aware, or a much closer future if we do not become aware, but it is something that is going to happen, but we don't think about the future, we think about the moment?
And
Thinking about the moment, that's not planning.
Of course, and it's poor planning if you think about it, because the responsibility for the consequences is left to other generations. It is like what is happening today, not what Ecuador is experiencing. Unfortunately, very little is said that there has been practically an exodus of people going to other countries. Are you living a lot? Not even in crime. Have you already considered a terrorist? No, and apart from that, David is, as you say, such a small country, but it is so good. They have very good material in raw materials and people, but they have so many political parties. And apparently, it seems that anyone, as far as I know, the one who sells onions on the corner can be a presidential candidate just because he is popular. What's your take on that?
Well, let's see. I think this would definitely end if they didn't force us to go vote. Because there you have to convince the one who really wants to vote. Do you want to vote on Sunday? We are going to go forced because why? Because I need the document to manage different activities here in Ecuador. Are they going to ask me for my ballots then? To the people and be forced to go and vote. You know you have to make a decision. So when you see a ballot with 16 people, many will carry an option. It's not because she smiles well, I like this one the way it looked in the photo, but they don't read the proposals, nor do those of us who read the proposals, and that many of them are not going to be viable, or many listen to it and say, ah, yes, I like this candidate for that proposal, but you know that that proposal is unviable. If you start analyzing, you say that it will not be possible to give by one. Isn't that death penalty for? No, you can't, because you have international agreements where you say that you don't agree with deaths or that you can kill a person. You can't sentence someone to death, so even bringing it up is absurd. No, but people say, no, yes, we're sick of crime. I want you to vote for this candidate because he says that he is going to kill criminals. He is going to impose the death penalty on them. It is something unfeasible, but people are going to go for that. Or are there others who are going to suffer at that moment and they play and see, put the pen and where the pen falls, they vote for that one.
But it is, as you say, take, and they want to take radical measures because they don't think about it in the long term, in the solution to the, because, for example, realistically, I think you and I share very similar criteria. For example, if you or I have a political campaign, we look for a plan that goes in line with the solution. For example, to be able to do this will take 20 years. But people don't want to hear this because, like you say, David, people want to take a pill and heal, but they don't want to go out, exercise, they don't want to eat well. Why? Because you have to make efforts and make sacrifices for those things and commit yourself. Is it easy to just take the pill, but also that, and this is my question for you, what is the responsibility of the people? Because you said something very brave. I definitely have to go vote then. Why not make a change for that? One, and how much responsibility the town also has, because, for example, we come to a marginal neighborhood, not where, for example, the criminal was held and even protected. That was the culture of those times. Nothing against them, or even 11 in that ignorance. I thought that was okay. But now your other knowledge tells me no. In order for the culture to change, you have to change all these things anyway. You think the people's responsibility, because it's as if they wait for the Messiah to change everything, but no one does anything in their own communities to make those changes.
Of course, I'm going to tell you with examples. Look, first I tell all of us culturally here. So those who see will be angry. We do not like to respect laws. And then, first of all, starting with respect for laws, being missing the primordial norm of a society. And we all have to be aware that we have to respect from the moment we generate an awareness that if something is wrong, we have to respect it and not do it. Is generating change? but change is going to depend on me. An example, here in Ecuador, you see a traffic light and it tells you that it is green for vehicles and you want to cross the street at the risk of any vehicle coming and causing an accident or losing your life. You know you can't do it. You've been educated that you can't cross as long as you have
El,
right to live, to pass, and you do it. You are always polite, but if you become aware of doing so and respecting those rules, even if no vehicle comes, you are already generating a change. And if a lot of people follow you, they're all going to realize that they're doing it wrong or that that's the right way and we can all do it. But not only can you or I do it, I have to be looking for everyone. Simple. Now in Policentro, they have put a traffic light because so that passers-by and vehicles can pass. That is when they enter the shopping center. No one respects that traffic light, and when I go, I stay and stop. And sometimes people in the third who can't even walk cross when they can't. Young people, so you don't see that it's a generational problem. It is a problem specific to each person because by worrying about yourself, about your safety, also when you want to vote for a candidate, you are going to vote for someone who you see is going to fulfill their government plan and who has not. They have been plans that you know that you are not going to comply with them because the way they post them is not appropriate. It's not the correct one, but it does help people shout and cheer up. Another, the freedom to create political parties and generate kachikago. And what's more, you and I get together, we form a political party, and a politician comes in and says, hey, you know, I want your political party, take a ticket. After using your political party, and that is not democracy. Why? Because the person who comes to hold a position in some dignity, what he does is do everything for his benefit. It is not for the benefit of all that, but the change lies in one itself. I believe that even if you do the right thing and you are the abnormal for society, I believe that doing it is already a change because now doing things correctly is being frowned upon because everyone makes it clear everything is bad, everything is bad. But when you do it the right way, you are the weirdo or the bad or the one who is right and sees it wrong. And this, but sir, because he stops here if he can pass. Yes, but I can't because the light won't let me.
I don't know.
Maybe doing the right thing is frowned upon.
Of course, why? It is important that the decisions you make are made for yourself, because that also lies the type of mural that you have for yourself, the values that you have, and how you want that people see you too, right? And as you say, it may be frowned upon, but in the end, you did the right thing. And for example, I never forget, David, that we at school, the law was made, the trap was made, we were looking for the trap because we didn't want to. But when you go, you have educational growth and you go according to your education, you also realize what you lost by doing the trap.
Yes, and not only that, you don't do it anymore. That's why I'm telling you to do the right thing. Make sure everything you do is done correctly. So you're going to vote with conscience, the best candidate, the best proposal. Of course, there will always be opposing positions, left, right. But when the person assumes this mandate, he always has to know that I have to do it for this entire population. And not only, but that something is going to benefit them or that the contract that I need and is $10,000, for example, is it really the $10,000 that I need to do that work? No, the work costs me four, and the remaining 6,000 I'm going to put into payment for bribe.
No, of course, it's just that, as you say, David, I think that people have the opportunity to learn, and I hope this can be infused because even schools and universities teach you that you have to investigate. But I think they don't give you the criterion of why. What is the importance of research? For example, the proposals made by politicians, how feasible are they? Because it's simple math. If you think about it, I don't know if you remember when I lived in Ecuador, and I think he was a political candidate who had promised that he would put a police kiosk on every corner in Guayaquil. That is, and the people believe that if you add the mathematics, there was not even, and he couldn't cover even 5% of the city with the police he had.
with the number of cops, of course.
The budget is, imagine, 24 hours a day. I mean, he hadn't even been given a break. Lunches. People's lunches, then. What do you believe in Ecuadorian society? Why do you think it doesn't entail being curious to investigate what they are?
First one, I think that here it seems a bit like a thought, a personal criterion. So, and I'm telling you this, I was in a meeting last week and one of the people asked, hey, who are you guys going to vote for? Did someone say for such a candidate, for such a candidate? Then I vote for him. They maybe did take the time to propose search or, but he said, who are you going to vote for? I contribute. I already vote for him. And I also had a person and also acquaintances at meetings. The same thing. Oh, you. Like I took from this meeting, 5 people vote for candidate A, 2 for candidate A, B, and I'm going for candidate A just like that with that lightness. So don't generate your own criteria that something can be right or wrong. I don't know if out of innocence or out of laziness or out of simply following the rest, but that is to generate one's own criterion, the one's own criterion that you are told antibiotics are not for the flu. Oh, and why is the flu? Ah, I already saw, or they let themselves be influenced. But if they let you be influenced, it is because you don't have your own criteria. That's it. It's generating a criterion, I'm telling you. And so, with that lightness, many people are going to vote. I'm telling you, here the pen fell, here for this vote.
What if it doesn't? And if you don't have a prop criterion for yourself, you're going to have little interest in creating a criterion outside of yourself.
Exactly. So you're already going to follow what someone else said that may be wrong because you may be talking, excuse me, for shit. But he says, yeah, look, 2 people say the same thing, so I'm going with him. So we make a bunch of bad decisions.
And so,
Simply for just saying, hey, let's see what they're saying. Okay, wrong. Now you have a smartphone. I think we are 18 million, and I think 60-70% have a smartphone. Look for it for one to corroborate whether what they tell you is feasible or not. If you can, you can't. Now we have many more facilities than when we were old. When we were in the ED knowledge part of the same school, we had less information, less tools,
and access to.
and exact access. Now, for example, I remember many years ago, a girl who worked in my house and said, I want to study. Or K goes back to school, he tells me, oh, I don't understand such a thing. Or I don't know where to investigate it, and I see her with him. Phone, latest generation, and I say, hey, but you can use the phone to investigate what they have sent you for homework. Oh no, I'm lazy. I'm going to check Facebook. I'm going to check some social network. So I say, because she wanted to do it just from a computer, I say, no, but the phone is smart and allows you to search for the information you want. No, 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 I don't anymore. I'm going to dedicate myself to doing other things, listening to music, watching videos. So that's what you want to do. Therefore, if you notice that many people speak Spanish very poorly because they try to copy a person who speaks or something they see, because they do not want to generate their own criteria that that person is doing it badly or that in that way it is not the appropriate one, then it is generating that people generate their own criteria that they generate themselves. What if that's good or bad?
Of course, and it is important that people in search of their own criteria also find or form their identity, because when people do not generate their identity, they are not self sufficient either, and they are dependent. They are dependent on what?
Then what he tells him.
Exactly, they are dependent even on making decisions for themselves.